Welcome to Nava Podcast with Leah Cardenas and Stella Pashos.
Let's explore the true essence of Nava.
Nava embodies the concept of beauty in all its forms. It represents the inner radiance that each woman possesses and the unique qualities that make her truly remarkable.
Our mission is to share the stories of inspiring women who are making their mark in the areas of fashion, health, lifestyle, and family. Our aim is to curate meaningful conversations where the journeys and experiences of our guests can inspire you in your own life.
We started this podcast to create a space where everyone can feel beautiful, inspired, and empowered.
Nava is not just a podcast, it's a celebration of the incredible women who have shaped our lives and the countless others who are yet to share their stories.
We can't wait for you to join us.
Hi.
Hey Stella, how are you?
So good.
I can't believe 1 week of school holidays is already down. It's going too fast.
That's every teacher I know is like, one, meticulously organised, every teacher I know, and then second is like the countdown for the school holidays.
But no one's gotten sick. That often
That's
happens.
good.
So, yeah.
When?
On the school holidays.
Yeah.
We're all healthy at the moment, so that's good.
Awesome. What's been happening?
Well, as you know, last week I was very excited to start cleaning, so the house is now clean.
Yeah.
Every cupboard has been touched.
We love it. The Midas to the Leo touch.
I don't know what it is. It's just nesting. It's real.
I have been on the same train, not nesting, but I am obsessed with Amazon organisation stuff.
Yes.
I'm actually going to show you guys my pantry. I'm really proud of it. Your pantry is good too.
No.
I ordered all these containers when we moved in. And I finally filled them all because they come with pre-populated labels, which is annoying because you might not have roasted nuts.
Yeah.
But now you do because you have to fit the label. So I go to there's a place near my house. It's like a Whole Food store.
Yes.
And so I just wrote down everything that I needed and then filled them all up. Very satisfying.
Beautiful.
Talk to us about our guest today.
So today we have Olivia Bates coming on from Nourishing Bubs, and she's going to talk to us about all things baby food, nutrition, toddlers, and I don't want to give too much away, but my favourite takeaway, because at the moment Isla is a little bit fussy, was the tips that she gave about introducing new foods or foods that the child might not want to eat, and she had some really, really great points. So you guys have to listen.
I feel like I was so engaged in this. Her energy is incredible. Liv, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah.
But yeah, even just as an adult, I feel like when you're a parent, your nutritional education increases obviously naturally because you're caring for someone else, but it's so easy to not care for ourselves first.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so even the salt intakes and going through the allergens and nutritional labels, this one for me was obviously we know this, but when you're looking at nutritional labels, Liv was saying the first ingredient is obviously the predominant one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got my sweet and dried mango slices here, and if we have a look, first ingredient, perfect, dried mango, 72%. Then they've got sugars, preservatives, and sulfites, acidity regulator. And we had an interesting conversation about different milk types, and that was a standout for me because I'm constantly ordering. One day it's an oat cappuccino, the next day it's an almond cappuccino, and I think we established that soy had the closest nutritional value to full cream milk. But I think sometimes, what are they called? Intolerances aside, we overcomplicate. I don't have an intolerance. I'm just going to make it simple for myself.
But what has been happening with you?
Not a lot, but exciting news. On my Amazon journey, I've purchased and been sucked into a walking pad.
Yeah.
So there's a guy from work, for all the corporate people, this guy is on the road to being a CEO. He's walking in every meeting. I'm trying to paint the picture. But it's been really good. I don't know if anyone else kind of like struggles with upward management, but now everyone knows his name.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Ian on the treadmill, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to get a treadmill. He does like 40,000 steps a day. So,
What?
Yeah. So instead of like being in a boring meeting or an engaging meeting, if anyone's listening, and being like, you know, seated the whole time, why not just get on the walking pad? So I'm really excited.
Yeah. Love it. And is it portable?
Yeah, it's pretty lightweight. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then it has like a bar that you can remove, so it fits under your desk.
Yeah.
But if not, there's a bar so you can watch movies, put your phone on there. Happy days.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for our listeners this week?
I think I'll leave it at my treadmill for now.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, it is my smoothie recipe. As you know, I have been dealing with hyperemesis, so vomiting constantly the whole way through pregnancy. I'm 34 weeks now and I still vomit like once a day. But my smoothie I keep down. It's almond milk, banana, peanut butter, protein powder, and a spoon of maca powder, which gives you energy. And it tastes so good. Have it in the morning and it keeps me nice and filled for till lunchtime.
Before or after coffee?
I'm off coffee at the moment, which is really sad.
Sorry, it's really sad. Sorry. Well, you've had a really tough time, so definitely going to be trying out that smoothie, and it's nice that you can kind of replace your coffee ritual with the smoothie. So I feel like that's really nice. We'll definitely be trying it. Any funny things from the week? Funny stories for me before we jump in?
For me, no. What about you?
There's always something funny, but this week had a good laugh with my girlfriend. I don't know if anyone's tried the heatless curlers.
No, but do they work? Is this that thing you put over your head and then wrap it around?
I posted a photo in our group chat, and she said, my girlfriend Helen sends a photo back, and it's like her in the same thing. Like we had both gone to bed that night wearing it, and it's like the most uncomfortable thing.
Oh my
But
goodness.
Helen swears she woke up and her hair was like gorge. I didn't have the patience. I took it out. So I'm thinking like next shower, wash my hair, dry it, and then put it in during the day.
Yeah.
And then leave it for like a couple of hours and see how it goes. But the results look amazing.
They do?
Yeah.
I want to try it.
Anyway, I just picked it up at Mecca and I'll let you know how we go. Oh, also, the funny part of that story was her husband said, never wear that again.
Oh no, so they didn't look good.
No, you'll end up looking like a 1950s housewife because your hair kind of like goes all across your head like this. It's not a vibe, but the end result is.
Oh, the end result is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll chat to you guys soon.
Hi, everyone. Today we're excited to welcome Olivia Bates, founder of the Nourishing Group and a dedicated paediatric dietitian and nutritionist. Olivia's passion for improving children's diets began during her university years, leading her to create Nourishing Bubs, a company focused on providing healthy, nutrient-rich food for babies. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you, guys. So excited to be here.
Do you have a correction for us with your name, or are you keeping Bates since you've been married?
No. I can't be bothered with the admin. So at the moment, I'm very much Bates, much to my husband's disappointment.
So it's good to check.
All right. So we love to start our episode with 90 seconds with, so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is your favorite way to start the day?
Definitely with a coffee and ideally some exercise.
If you could have dinner with anyone, who would it be?
I would have Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think she is just such a trailblazer and has just done such amazing things for women. So, yeah.
What's a hobby you've always wanted to pick up but haven't?
So this is an old one. So I would like to re-pick up bike riding. We actually bought bikes in COVID. I've ridden them once, so I'd like to do something about that.
What is your go-to comfort food?
Look, I'd like to say it was a really healthy bowl, and I do love a healthy bowl, but I just love ice cream. Passionately love ice cream.
Which flavour? Just out of it.
I actually got some last night. I love coffee, and the boss's wife from Gelato Messina is phenomenal.
Yum, me too. If you could live in any city in the world, where would it be?
Look, I think Sydney is pretty great. However, if I was still in my 20s, I would have loved to have done a couple of years in New York.
Nice. What's your favorite movie or TV show?
Grey's Anatomy, hands down, obsessed.
If you could tick off something off your bucket list, what would it be?
I really want to go to Lapland. I'm obsessed with Christmas, so I really want to get to Lapland.
That is so cute.
It's Lapland.
So it's
You
like
know
where
what it
Santa
is?
lives.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Oh,
Yeah, it's like where
okay.
Santa lives, like Santa's workshop, and it's like, and you see the Northern Lights, and
Oh,
it's
that's amazing.
yeah, it's very cool. Yeah.
And lastly, what's your favorite quote or motto that you live by?
It's so I had to think about this, but it would be you only regret the chances you didn't take.
I just looked up Lapland, sorry. And if anyone doesn't know what Lapland is, it's in Finland's northernmost region. And it's incredible. That is amazing, like what everyone's dreams are made of.
Like that is, I'm just I'm like Santa, I'm obsessed with Santa, everything about Santa. I just love it. And that is just, I just cannot have to get there in my life.
Do you change your decorations every year?
What I do is we buy a new one, so we'll keep I don't change the theming of it, but I buy the really nice beautiful baubles, like where you spend $20 on a bauble. So I'll buy one new one a year, one for each, usually for my husband and I and my mum, and we put that so it's growing the collection is the idea of
lovely.
it. So they're beautiful baubles, but new ones every year.
Leah's asking because she's particularly passionate about Christmas and themed decorations.
Oh, you're
Her
one of
trees are always
those?
incredible. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've been slowly adding to it. My husband finally, after being married, I don't know, 12 years, let me buy a tree for our house because we then we had our first daughter. He's like, okay, now we can celebrate Christmas. So so I got a little bit crazy the last couple of years.
Okay, so are you a real tree or a fake tree?
No, it's a fake tree, but it's 3 meters tall.
Oh, okay.
It's a big one.
Yeah, I'm like a real tree, strong scent,
Nice.
has to be, yeah.
I've never had a real tree, but I will get one this year. Thanks, Olivia.
Oh, it will change your life. The smell is just something else.
They are beautiful.
Can you kick us off and share a little bit about yourself with us and our listeners?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So aside from loving Christmas, so I am 34. I'm a dietitian. I'm based in Sydney. I have a baby food company called Nourishing Group, which I started in 2016, actually. I think I was working for an almond milk company at the time. And it was a startup as well. And it was the first job I'd ever had out of uni. And I was also doing a pediatric nutrition degree on the side. And I was like, you know what? I love babies. I just want to do something in the pediatric space. And then that company sort of folded up. It was sort of when almond milk was becoming popular, but they were glass bottle, 2-day shelf life. So, the other one sort of took over. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to dive head straight into this business. And I looked at what was available, and it was all those, shelf stable squeezies. And I was like, this is just gross. You'd feed your dog better stuff. So I was like, you know what? I just felt like I had nothing to lose. I was like, I'm gonna start a business. And so I've been doing it since 2017. It's been a really wild journey, I would say. I have been with my husband for 5 years, but as I said, we just got married. And he's been a really incredible support. And I guess that would be one thing I would say, to have a startup, you really do need to surround yourself by really incredible people. And so I've definitely, over the last few years, really found my people. It's been a journey, but I love my husband. I love my friends. I love my business. I work in my business with my mum. She's amazing. And yeah.
That's awesome. What a journey.
Yeah, there's so much there. I want to ask, how is it working with your mum? Do you ever clash?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she'll listen to this at some point. No. Look, it definitely has its ups and downs. And I would say, I guess any business and with any employees or whatever, when things are going really well, you're so happy and you're excited and whatever. But when things are not going so well, you're nitpicky, you probably clash a little bit more. Part of we've been having a lot of growth, I guess, in the last 12 months, but it has meant us going back into the kitchen. And I would say, you have some really long days in there. And at the end of a long day, I would say we both are tired and we have short fuses, and that's probably where we clash a bit more. But in general, we used to have a couple of business partners, but we bought them out, and it's actually been the best thing for us and the business. And we've really been really united, and definitely in the last 6 months when things have been just going so well, it's been really nice. It's like our baby, we're so proud of it, and we just I think it's really nice to be able to celebrate those wins with someone, especially a mum. And, we've had to make a lot of sacrifices for the business and, work unpaid and things like that. But when it's for your family, you're willing to do that. It's so, and we both had to do it. And I think you can only do that when it's your family. Well, easier to do it when it's your family rather than, someone else.
Sure.
So it's definitely had its moments, but, and, sometimes I'm like, is this the best idea? But it is. Look, my mum's only child, so it's, look, we're very proud of where we're at, and touch wood, things are going well, so it's good.
Before we get into all the baby questions, I would like to know how your business differentiates itself with its ingredients and things like that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So when I started the business, one thing I was really adamant about was using 100% Australian ingredients. So we're very much focused on that. I would say, my ideal when I started was that it would be 100% organic, Australian. However, I quickly learned that, that wasn't actually possible if I wanted to make it, price it so that it was accessible. By all means, I would say, my product is not the cheapest on the market, but I wanted to make it, accessible to, middle and upper class rather than, only, the top 5% of the population. So it did mean I had to let go of this organic, I guess, halo. However, I did really learn that, a lot of the organic is imported organic, as you'll see in the supermarkets. And so to have organic Australian, also just from a supply perspective, we just didn't have the supply available. So I said, you know what, I want to be committed to being 100% Australian, support the local farmers. It also means that obviously being purees, we can get, you can use stock that wouldn't be able to be sold, for example, as a whole pumpkin, the ugly fruit or something that you see in the supermarkets now. But they're fine for purees, obviously, but they wouldn't be able to be sold as, a first. So we're able to take advantage of that. It's still absolutely fine from a nutritional perspective, and it goes straight from farm to production, which is great. So it doesn't sit in long storage. We started doing meat purees recently. We have a butcher just across the road that's all grass fed. We use it we buy all of our meat there for ourselves. So naturally I was like, you know what, I'll get our meat for the business from there. They also wholesale to a lot of restaurants, but it's all, free range, grass fed, all 100% Australian, of course, as well. So that's really been a priority for us. The only place, I guess, where it's not all 100% Australian is just some of the nuts that we use for our allergen pack, purely because they're not available here. Brazil nuts are not grown in Australia. So just things like that where it's actually not possible, but our goal has always been to, focus on Australian. We manufacture everything here. Some of it, as I said, I'm back manufacturing myself, but some of it's also contract manufactured. But it's all about no fillers, nothing added, as close to natural as possible. It's really, what you would do, but it's the same as what you'd make at home. We've just done it for you. So you added that convenience factor.
Convenience is the key when
Yes.
I think at a time as well when everyone's kind of now looking to support local, I think that's the whole movement that we've seen over the last 5 years. It's really nice to be getting behind Australian brands and businesses and having the intention for your business to be let's source things locally. This is our point of difference, as well as a number of other factors. It's really admirable. And I think now we love to see and get to know who's behind the brand. So I'm loving that personally. But thanks for sharing your story with us.
No.
So for our mums that are about to start feeding their babies and they're are we going purees? Are we going baby-led weaning? When is my baby ready? I think it can be really scary to introduce solids. What are some of the signs?
What great question. I mean, yeah, I feel like also starting solids is one of those things that has just, there's so much out there on the internet. You just sort of, you go into a deep dive and you're like, oh my God. And there's so many opinions, like your mother, your mother-in-law, your GP, everyone's got something to say. But in terms of the signs, the number one sign you'll always be looking for is that good head and neck control. So being able to hold their head upright. I don't necessarily expect, for example, you'd be able to put them on the floor with no support whatsoever and they'd be able to completely sit upright. But definitely if you were to put them in like a high chair, for example, where there is a little bit of support there, that they would be able to hold themselves upright because they do have that level of support. Ways to sort of improve that is things like tummy time, where you can really strengthen that neck and just practice that. Aside from obviously that, which would be your number one, you're looking for things like, reaching out for your food, showing a real interest in your food, opening their mouth if you were to bring a spoon near. So definitely looking quite intently for that food. And then the other thing you might start to notice is that tongue thrust reflex, where they're constantly poking their tongue out. That's going to start to gradually disappear, but it definitely is often still a bit present when you do get started, and that's fine, which is why sometimes if you are feeding purees, like it might sort of end up a bit outside their mouth, but that's going to gradually disappear. But your number one thing will always be that strong head and neck control, because if they've got a floppy neck, there's the potential for choking, which we obviously don't want.
Wow, that's so interesting. As someone that doesn't have kids yet, I would love to have kids one day, but solids is like one area of it. Lee, you might want to elaborate on that. But I'm just thinking for new mums, and where do you start when you're looking at nutrition as a whole for your little one?
So great question. So you are moving really from, obviously they're getting all of their nutrition and their energy, well, all the nutrients and the energy from their breast milk or formula. And obviously it's going to be a gradual process as they start to move towards food. So it's going to, they'll start to gradually take on some food. And as time goes on, their milk will start to decrease to a point really where at 12 months, they're getting most, if not all of their energy and nutrients from the solid food. Obviously, unless, you choose to breastfeed beyond that, which is obviously great. But in terms of, where to start, you just know that once you start to see these signs of readiness, and it's usually, we say around 6 months, not before 4 months. So there is this sort of window. This is where you often will see quite a bit of debate online. And I would say currently, there is a bit more of a movement, I think, towards starting a little bit more towards the 6 month stage. In saying that, I think, you'll hear from often pediatricians as sometimes a bit more towards the 4 month mark, depending on where they're at on it. This is where it can get quite controversial. But as long as you're really focusing on that sign of readiness, you never want to offer them any, not even a day before 4 months would I ever say to offer food. One of the main reasons being is that, as soon as you do start to offer food to them, you are potentially opening up the risk of foodborne illness, because, breastfeeding, if you put them on the boob, is a very sterile process. If you put it into bottles or you do formula, you have to sterilize the bottles and you have to do it in a very sterile manner with boiled water, etc. So obviously, as soon as you start to offer solid food, there is that potential for foodborne illness. And just, any time before that 4 month mark, their immune system is just not ready. So it is really important. It's not a second before that 4 month mark. But then it really comes down to when they're showing that those signs of readiness. And I think you've got to remember, every baby develops at a slightly different rate. You can't say, look, at this day, every baby is going to be exactly the same, because it's not like that. There's always going to be a few months range in every milestone that you're looking at. And Leah, you probably know this when you go and check in for those health checks. They're there's always a couple of months. They're okay, so is your baby rolling yet? Is your baby doing this? But it's not 8 months. They're 8 months. Are they doing it? Did they do it that day that they turn 8 months? It's not like that. So there will be these certain milestones, and you'll have read the books, or you're going to your mother's group and you're hearing, okay, I think at this stage they should be doing this. But you do get dragged along. But in terms of, the nutrition at the beginning, it's just about getting them used to food. It's not about going, okay, what so much is in it. Of course, from 6 months, it is really important that we focus on iron, because we do know that their iron stores are dropping. And also from 6 months, their iron requirements increase quite substantially. So the key nutrient we always do think about and talk about is iron from 6 months. And then I tell people, really just to make sure that you are offering one iron-rich meal per day. And there are different types of iron. You've got iron coming from your animal sources, which is better absorbed. So things like your chicken liver, your red meats, and then your poultry, your seafood, and then your plant-based sources. So things like your dark leafy greens, your spinach, your broccoli, your lentils, your legumes, your fortified sources, and those ones you just want to try and offer with a source of vitamin C, which as a general rule would be a fruit or veg, which will just help boost that absorption. So really that's the key thing that you need to be focusing on. Other than that, it's just about variety, like getting them used to a whole lot of different foods and just trying different things. I definitely encourage parents to offer as many veggies as they can before they offer fruits. We do know that babies innately have a preference for sweet foods, so you do want to try and get those veggies in. Well, you probably remember that, like they will. Usually you can get the apple or the banana or the mango in pretty easily. The broccoli is not quite as straightforward.
At the beginning, we were doing so many different foods. Like I was even doing like smoked mussels and going like really gourmet and crazy. And then now she's 3 and she has her own palate and doesn't want to eat those things.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have this great window, like, you do have this amazing window, and they definitely you'll feel like they regress, but it's as long as you lay those foundations, they will come back around. It's just that they learn independence. Like, a 3-year-old is like a 2 or a 3-year-old. They're just fiercely independent. And their way of asserting that is by going, no, I don't want that. But that's the only way they can assert that independence. So they just become fussy or appear to become fussy.
Yeah, it's a journey. Speaking of picky eaters, what do you suggest for parents that are dealing with that at the moment, i.e. me?
Look, I would definitely encourage persistence is key. Definitely hang in there. As they say, this too shall pass. But look, keep offering. You want to keep offering this offer obviously variety, but also, repeatedly showing them things, even just having it there on the plate and them getting used to it. And then, one day they might then pick it up, and then the next day they might actually sniff it or, take a bite of it. It's that repeated exposure to it. Aside from that, demonstrating by doing, what, babies love to mimic what their parents are doing. So that's why, even I used to do a lot of babysitting, and you always end up eating what the kids are eating, but it's good. It shows them, oh, look, I'll eat, this is delicious. I'll eat this. If you can, obviously the timing of kids' meals is often not ideal. Do you want to eat dinner at 4:30? Probably not. But if you can at least have some kind of small dinner with them, sit and eat with them, that family meal time can really help, encourage them along, and, get them into the habit of it and just show them, demonstrate those really healthy habits for them. Also trying to offer things in different formats. So are you just offering carrots as steamed sticks, or should you offer them as rounds, or they're, or is it mashed, or there are other ways that you can offer it. So not always offering it the same, or could it be finely grated? Just offer the foods in different ways and see how they respond to it. Or, is it making fun shapes out of it? Cutting things, using things, cutters, getting a bit creative. Or do you have to, I don't like to say, hide it, but sometimes we need to get a bit creative. Are we baking it into a muffin or things like that? Obviously the ideal is that they're picking up and eating that carrot, but if they're just going through one of those stages, if at least you can get it into a little muffin, that's still a win for you. So look, be persistent. It can be really, really draining, but just putting one carrot out there and not putting pressure on them as easy as it is to be come on, but no pressure around it, and then eventually hopefully they will pick it up. Aside from that, also just offering a new food or a food you want them to eat with a food that they're comfortable with. So, having it on the plate with something that, you're pretty sure that they're going to eat anyway. And so it's there. You're not putting pressure on them to eat it, but if they do, that's great. But also if they do eat it, also don't make a fuss. It's being really non-reactionary, as hard as it can be. It's changed a lot.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think it's also good advice for me to try eat more veggies, hide it in my normal food.
Yeah. I love the different formats, food in different formats. I think that's really interesting. And something so simple, because I feel like this might be silly for parents listening to this, but you'd be like, oh, he doesn't like carrots. Let's just remove that entire vegetable, move on to the next. But changing it up, even the shapes, the cookie cutters is such a easy and fun idea to get them to have that relationship with the food. And then about the fast, that's so interesting as well. I feel like I grew up in a Greek household, and my mum we were laughing yesterday, went to my grandma's house and they had a dessert which is called risogalo, which is a rice pudding. And I was like, there is no way I'm eating that rice pudding, because when I was little, my mom like force fed us this food. She like slaved away for the day cooking this and was like, you must eat this rice pudding. And my brother and I to this day will never touch it.
But that's the thing. I like it. But
yes.
that is exactly the thing. And also, like, parents often like also pass on their own food issue. Like, you know, you might pass on that to your children because you're like, you know, you're unlikely to have that in your household, but try not to, like, you know, because they can just develop those habits as well.
Do you have any tips for parents when they're at that frustrated point?
Look, definitely you need to just keep going with it. I would definitely do like, don't offer heap. I think one part of it is they're like, I just feel like I'm constantly throwing out heaps of food. Is just, you know, don't offer too much. Like just offer like one piece. Also, another tip I see parents do is that they will be like, okay, fine. Like, you know, like, you're not eating that for dinner, that's fine. You keep the plate there, like leave it at the dinner table and let them go away and do something else. And then if, you know, before bed, they're like, well, I'm hungry, then you bring out the plate and go, well, there you go. Like, and you usually at that point when they know that like, and also explaining to them that, you know, that's what's on the menu for tonight. So not giving them options, because I do think what a lot of parents do is like, fine, like whatever, you can have the plain pasta or whatever it is, but try not to give in as hard as it can be. Just, you know, stay firm on it, and say, you know, this is what's on the menu for tonight, you know, re-offer it to them, and usually they will come around. And if they learn that you're not going to just give in and change that, you know, change your mind on it, they usually will come around. You know, they might go to dinner a couple of times hungry, but then they'll wake up hungry usually. So, you get something in like, don't be afraid to let them go to bed hungry, especially when they're at that, you know, 3, 4, 5-year-old toddler stage, like provided there's nothing else going on and you're not worried about them actually not having enough, you know, they're losing weight, provided they're not losing weight, you know, it is fine to let them go to bed hungry. Often also they'll, you know, fill up on food earlier in the day. It might be that you need to look at what they are eating over the day. Are they having so many snacks that by the time that it comes to dinner time that they're actually just not really that hungry either? So it's looking at, you know, it's looking at what else is going over in the course of the day, and the way that you can, you know, do you need to adjust it? Do you need to be a bit stricter? Like, okay, well, you know, we can't have a snack an hour before main meal times because it seems to be really interrupting the meal time.
Yeah, that's good. Now, allergens are really scary to introduce as a parent. I've heard of like mums introducing nuts and staying near the hospital because they're so afraid. What are some top tips?
Great question. So allergens in Australia has the highest rate of allergies worldwide, which is really crazy. And like nuts, pardon the pun, but, you know, remember when we were at school, like we could have like Nutella and peanut butter sandwiches, and now there's so many restrictions. So definitely my top tips are, as with any new food, but particularly when it comes to allergens, always offer the allergen in the first half of the day. Obviously, if there is any reaction, you want there to be time before the next nap. So I would usually say, you know, they get up, say their awake window is 2 hours. We know an allergic reaction will take place 5 minutes. A true allergic reaction will take place 5 minutes to 2 hours after the food is ingested. So you want them to be awake for that time so that you can observe them, and, you know, obviously make sure nothing happens. You want to start with a very small amount. The Australian Society of Clinical Immunology and Allergy, which is the guidelines that we use here in Australia, they recommend starting off with a 1/4 teaspoon on the first exposure, and then doing 3 repeated exposures. I usually find it easier just to do 3 consecutive days, but otherwise you just want to do it within a week. So, you know, you could do like, for example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So do, you know, Monday you would start with a 1/4 teaspoon, then on say Tuesday you would do 1/2 teaspoon, and then on Wednesday you would do a whole teaspoon. After you've done those 3 consecutive tries, you can usually say, okay, there's no allergic reaction. A couple of other things would be, if you're really, really nervous about it, you can just rub a tiny bit on the inside of their mouth as like a step before the 1/4 teaspoon, and then you could move to a 1/4 teaspoon. You could do that on the same day. I usually, you know, say just aim to do 1 allergen per week just to make it quite approachable. Otherwise, it can be really overwhelming. Also, just making sure another adult is home, whether or not that's your partner or your mom or your mother-in-law, something like that. Just because obviously if there is a reaction, it's really scary and you want someone to help you manage the situation. And, get to hospital or call 000, do what you need to do. And then also just some practical things like don't do it on a long weekend or when you're in the middle of nowhere or, just because at the end of the day, if something happens, you want to know that you can get to emergency as soon as possible. It's not completely stupid to do in the hospital car park. But, I'd usually say that's more if maybe you have a family history of it. But if you had a family history of it, I'd even recommend maybe if you have an allergist yourself, chatting to the allergist before you do start to offer them. But it is, in Australia, it's not commonplace to do any allergy testing, for example, before. We actually just brought out, I don't know if you know, but an allergen introduction kit. And it's just that we've just made them all in, or most of the allergens except for shellfish and fish, but they're all in a powder form. So one thing that we were finding is when it came to allergens, people didn't really know how to do all the tree nuts and didn't realize that they needed to do each tree nut individually. And there's 9. So that's quite a lot. Like Brazil nut, it's how do I, Brazil nuts are these huge nuts. How do I do that? Or pine nut. And people forget about something like pine nut. I'm but pesto, everyone has pesto, pesto is really popular. So it's all just in a powdered form that you can easily stir into baby's food and stuff. So, we've got that, which makes it quite easy. But yeah, it's just an easy way to help parents with that. But also just try to be calm. It is very scary, but, touch wood, they won't have an allergy. And if they do, things like egg and milk, fortunately, are ones that they will often grow out of by the time that they are 3.
What are the allergens for those that don't know? Most people know nuts and eggs, but there's quite a few others.
Yeah, sure. So you have got you've got peanuts, egg, milk. So it's cow's milk protein. It's not just a lactose intolerance. You've got fish. You've got shellfish, and shellfish includes mollusks and crustaceans. So your prawns, for example, and then things like your mussels. You have sesame. You have soy. Am I getting them all? Sesame, soy.
I think that's all of them. There's a lot.
That's it. Yeah, there are. Yeah. Sesame, soy. Yep, that is. And wheat, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier about Australia being one of the highest statistics in terms of an allergic population. Do you think there are some certain things that we're doing with diet restrictions that are contributing to this?
I think that's right. Often, for example, a country like South Africa, they have one of their most common kids snack is those bumba. I don't know if you've seen them, the bumba kids snacks. They're a peanut puff. And so they don't have a high rate of peanut allergy because their children just have them. Whereas I think, our generation, there was a lot of, or just after us, our parents, there was a lot of, restrictions where they're don't offer them this. And the old recommendations prior to 2016 were to hold off introducing the allergens until after they were 1. And so they think that this caused a massive spike in the allergies. Wow. Now they want us to introduce all of them by the time the child is 1.
There you go. Well, hopefully for the next generation, we're paving the way to reintroduce some of those groups. And
100%. Yeah.
Speaking of allergens and those that might have a lactose intolerance or allergic to dairy, what are some good nutritional alternatives? We have a lot of different milk at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. So look, if it's a lactose intolerant, so that's different to a cow's milk protein. So there are actually some really good ones where they've taken the lactose out of it, or they've added the enzyme where it pre-digests it. So, you can get lactose-free cheese, lactose-free milks, lactose-free yogurts. So definitely if you can still, get the benefits of the calcium from the dairy, then, they would be a great step. If it's more severe, it's a cow's milk protein issue, then you have to avoid cow's milk altogether, then, there's definitely some great alternatives. Sometimes soy is also an issue for those people. But if soy is not, soy would be your next best in terms of being quite nutritionally complete. It's also often fortified with calcium. You definitely want to be looking for those foods that are fortified with calcium. When it is fortified, it should be 100 milligrams per 100 mils. That's just the guidelines we have in place in Australia, which just means it's on par with like cow's milk, so they can still get the benefits. So just, reading the label, looking for that calcium fortification. It will be in the nutritional panel if they've had to add calcium. So, getting any of those milk alternatives, soy would definitely be your best bet. There are obviously things like almond, rice, oat. I would say, some of them, you be careful of just the ingredients. They often have quite a lot of fillers, not that much, not so great, from a nutritional perspective, often just like 2% of it is actually like what almond or whatever it's meant to be. So, where possible, you would opt for something like soy. But then, there are also, there's cow's milk coconut milk options as well. And, there's yogurts available in those. So ideally, you always would prefer to go for like a food option. Almonds are a great option. So like almond butter too. Can help contribute, tahini as well. Otherwise, you do need to unfortunately look at a supplement, but we'd always try and get it from food if we can.
Yeah, we're lucky we have so many options, but I think there's also really good marketing when it comes to nutrition and what might or might not be healthy. So it's so important to know, I think, and read the labels.
We spoke about a couple of things. So we've spoken about vitamin C helping the absorption of iron. We've spoken about the allergens. Now I'd love to learn a little bit about salt intake for babies and toddlers. What are some tips for keeping their salt intake within healthy limits?
Yeah, great. So, look, salt is one of those ones that we definitely talk a lot about, sometimes to the point where the issue is like the other way, like if that makes sense, like people are so scared of salt with babies. Like it's almost been like maybe pushed a bit hard, where people be like to me, oh, like I made this dish, but I did put a tiny bit of salt in the water. Like, can I still offer it to baby? And I'm like, look, honestly, like, you keep offering your baby like one little spoon of, your meal, and it's probably, yes, it's got a tiny bit of salt, is absolutely fine. They eat such small amounts anyway. Sometimes I think we've almost like fear-mongered them into being so nervous of it, particularly if you're preparing all your food at home yourself. The main issue where salt becomes a big issue is like processed foods, where a lot of it is added to help, make it taste better, or like, extend the shelf life and things like that. If you're preparing all your child's food at home, a little bit of salt in it is absolutely fine. I think, it's about offering a wide variety of foods, trying to offer as much as you can that is homemade, not offering heaps of packaged snacks, crackers, biscuits, all of those things, that have a lot of salt added to it. Processed meats, all of those things will already just help you reduce the amount of salt that you are offering them. Obviously not adding any salt to their food after it's prepared. But if you are preparing something that is purely just for them, definitely don't add salt to it. But if you are preparing something that, for example, is this is more for under 12 months. When they're over 12 months, you probably will want to add a tiny bit of it just to give it a bit more flavor. But obviously, where possible, using things like herbs and spices, subtle herbs and spices to flavor foods rather than opting for salt to enhance the flavor. They would probably be my key things to just, focusing really on homemade where you can, and reading the ingredient list. If salt's one of the first few ingredients, I'd probably be steering clear of it. But yeah, look, ideally you want to aim for things when you're buying like snacks, particularly for like from 12 months, it really should be under 120 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams of the food.
Amazing. That's really helpful for myself also with no kids. So if the nutritional labels are a little overwhelming to start off with, what would the one thing you would advise kind of drawing our attention to as a starting point?
don't worry so much about the numbers, but read the ingredient list. So like you want to look at what the order of things are. So the way that the ingredient list is done, the first thing listed will always be the most dominant thing in that food. So for example, if you're buying, I'm trying to think, like potato chips, like potato theoretically should be, is going to be your first ingredient in it. You also want to be looking for things that are like you understand all of the ingredients in it. If they've got if they're really long ingredient lists or like words that you don't understand, like look up those words, because usually things you don't understand are probably things that you don't want to have, like chemicals or often tricky, sneaky names for sugar. There are lots of them. Things that end in OSE are usually some type of sugar. So, watching out for that. I would always just, you want to look for short ingredient lists, look for recognizable names, looking for, good ingredients. You don't want sugar to be your second ingredient because it's probably not the most nutritious food. So just read the ingredient list. Don't worry so much don't get too caught up in the numbers. I think they can be sometimes taken out of context. Just focus on what's in that ingredient list.
And I like to look for no numbers in the ingredients list.
Great.
As much as possible.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and because numbers also, I don't know about you, but I don't know off the top of my head what the numbers mean. So
now, it is very cold in Melbourne and Sydney, and little ones often have droopy noses for months on end, I feel like, in my house. What are some good immune-boosting foods we can all eat?
Great. Look, omega-3 is always going to be a good one. So things like your oily fish, your salmon, trout, if you're into things like sardines, mackerel as well, they would all be really good options. That's one of my favorite ones. Probiotic type foods, so things like your yogurt, your kefir, just being careful again there. Make sure you do read the ingredient list, particularly those kids' yogurts often have some sugars in them. There are definitely some better options out there now, but even just getting a full-fat Greek yogurt and adding a bit of, your own made fruit puree or something into it to add flavour would be better. Then things like ginger, a bit of ginger can be really good, really anti-inflammatory for all of us. Obviously, it can be a little bit harder with little ones, but you can gradually increase like their tolerance to it. A little bit on carrots, for example, can be a nice way to introduce it. And then aside from that, what else would I do? Yeah, they're probably my key ones. Some bone broth, it can be beneficial, particularly if they are feeling sick. There is some benefit, there's some, if you are sick, there's also like cysteine in it, which can help, one of the amino acids, which can help just break up any phlegm. So they'd probably be my key ones that I'd go for. And then, of course, fruit and vegetables, just because of the vitamin C, which we all know is so good for our immune system.
So over on the Nourishing Group website, I was just having a little squiz earlier and I saw that there's you've made it really easy for parents to hop on there and simplify what they're looking for. So you've got different collections that you're of products, the allergen introduction, and I love that you've also got that intro tracking chart. That would be fun. I guess you can involve the little one in that if they're old enough, but I suppose just to have a clear view of what we're up to and for everyone in the household to know that. You've got your allergen intro pack, your nut maintenance mix that you mentioned earlier, as well as the moving into toddlers as well. Where can our audience find your products?
So a lot of what we do is online for our and we deliver all the way up the East Coast, and we're just about to launch. So we do Tassie, South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, obviously Queensland, and we are about to launch into Western Australia, which is really exciting. We'll basically have national coverage there, and then we do sell in Harris Farms here. More New South Wales. I don't think you've got any in Victoria yet. There's one or two in Queensland, I think. And then more some independents, but we are trying to grow that this year. But look, most of the time we can deliver to people, and I do encourage, like we do obviously have a minimum order and stuff just because of the cost of frozen shipping, but I encourage, team up with a maid and, we offer over $175, we offer free shipping and stuff. So that can be good. Yeah, team up with a friend and bulk order.
A little tip. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have some really great recipes on the website too. What are some go-to snacks you recommend from there?
Oh, amazing. I definitely think so. Some of there's a couple of wheat bix snacks, which are awesome. There's a Milo one that's made with like the low sugar Milo, which is always a bit of a hit, being a chocolate one. But there's also one that's like wheat bix with like dried apricots and a bit of the strawberry puree, which is a really nice, easy slice that people love. The little muffins and stuff, because you just chuck them in, like make a batch and just chuck them in the freezer. They're really good because they'll just can put them in a lunchbox. They'll defrost by the time that they're going to like school. They're at school for like a morning tea, like fritters and things. There's like cauliflower and parmesan ones, which I love. My husband's favorite ones. There's like broccoli bacon ones. They're his favorite. In fact, he likes them so much he's requested me to make them this week for his workmate. He's got a new job and he's like, "Can you make those?" He tests everything out. But yeah, those types of things are really, really popular. Like the little muffins and stuff are great because you can just bulk batch cook and defrost as you need them.
Yeah, I love things that you can freeze and defrost.
Yeah.
Alongside the Nourishing Bubs collection, do you have any hacks for meal prepping? I imagine a busy household with, little ones and then needing to run out the door and not having a snack in hand would be something that might come up very often. So you've got a great collection of ready snacks, but is there anything that you would recommend?
I would look. I definitely think like bulk cooking can be a really if you have the opportunity to it. Like especially now it's a little bit colder. Things like making like even at the beginning of the week, if you have time, just like roast a whole lot of vegetables and like. With my like sweet potato and things like that, I just like, I don't even peel it. Like I just like, clean it obviously, but just like chop it. It doesn't need to be peeled, just, roughly chop it and do a whole batch. You can roast like capsicum and sweet potato and all of these things and just like have a bulk load made and then maybe prepare like some quinoa or some brown rice or something. And then you can take like a spoon of that, a whole spoon of the roast veg and then add some like leftover meat. I'm a big fan of leftovers. Like I always cook enough for the next day as well because we always like want to take lunch or like if you're making a bolognese, like make double the batch and then freeze some portions of it so that those nights where you're short on time, like, and I love cooking and I really enjoy that unwind at the end of the day, but like there are some nights I'm like I just don't have time, and I can imagine when I add a child to it, I'll be like, oh God, I don't have time for this. I can just like pull out and I'm like, oh yes, I've got that in the freezer. I'll just like defrost that. So the freezer is your friend. And also like things like frozen vegetables, like pre-cut. I think people have really demonized the frozen aisle. They're like, they think of like pizzas and ice creams and stuff, but like frozen veggies go straight from farm and like snap frozen. They're often better than the ones that have been sitting there. So grab the frozen pack.
I was going to ask, I need inspo. What is your go-to dinner option at the moment?
Okay, so do you like salmon, like fish?
Well, I like everything. It's just what baby likes at the moment, which is hit and miss. But I just need some good go-to inspo recipes.
Look, I love for kids especially, I love a good bolognese because especially if they're being really difficult, you can hide heaps of vegetables into it. Like, and especially like our purees are really good for this. People often buy them when their kids are a bit older because then if they can't, when they can't stand this, they'll be like, I can see that bit of carrot and I'm going to pick that out. If they're at that stage, you can like stir the purees in. I just like throw so many veggie purees into the bolognese. So that's definitely a good one for me. I would really encourage. Otherwise, like salmon, but like put some kind of slightly sweet glaze on it at the end of the day. Sweet usually work. Like even make like oranges are in season, so like get some orange juice and like just reduce it down a little bit, and just make it like add a bit of ginger to it and make it like a nice glaze and just like bake in the oven. Super simple. Try them on that. Otherwise, what else would I go for? like some slightly like healthier chicken nuggies, like putting some, we make them, but also putting some veggies in them can also be really good. Also crumbing things tends to, make a slightly healthier crumb. So you can use things like some almond meal on something, but I don't know, for some reason, crumbing or like fried sort of thing tends to go well. We actually recently got an air fryer and I feel like it might have changed my life. They're really...
I want to get one, but I don't know. I've heard mixed reviews.
Oh no, I think it's just so quick as well. Like one thing that annoys me is our oven takes so long to warm up. So like, that can make people very irritated. Whereas the air fryer takes 2 minutes. So it's so quick and everything's like crispy and yummy. Like it is
getting one.
I think it's a bit of a game changer. And we got one that's like 10 in 1. And so it means that I can also do things. I quite like using the dehydrator function, like, because that actually can be a really good option for kids' snacks, like making like fruit chips and stuff. Like,
we were talking about this earlier. I think you posted, did you have the dehydrated oranges dipped in chocolate? And we're like,
I have done that. Yes, that was me. I did that for Christmas and did like half in chocolate and they were like amazing. Yep. Now I used to just have a dehydrator, but I can do it on the air fryer. And my husband wants to make jerky. He loves jerky. So he's going to make dehydrated jerky. So
love it.
The air fryer, they should pay me for promoting it. I was very against it as well. Like we've only had it a week, but
Nava represents the core values we like to explore in our podcast, and each letter of Nava stands for an essential aspect of personal and professional growth. N is for navigate.
And can you share a time when you had to readjust your goals due to unexpected challenges in your professional journey, and how did you handle it?
Okay, so I had to think about this one, so we went into Woolworths just during we started stocking in Woolworths, but just as COVID hit, and it was like the week that COVID hit, we had to like roll out. And anyway, long story short, it rolled out 3 months later, but it was like it was a bit of a disaster. We're in for 2 years, but like we changed products halfway through, and it just and I think you think, oh, when you're a small business, you're like, oh my God, Woolworths, that's all you want. Like a Woolworths or a Coles contract is like the goal. But we were like, okay, like when we look at it now, like I don't think we lost money, but like we pretty much like broke even on it. Like it was definitely not a financially beneficial thing. I guess it's learning to sort of turn the net, like I guess try and take the positives away from the negative. Like that really tested me. And like when we got like deleted, I was devastated and I cried and I was, oh my God, like I was really worried. And we had to really like sort of change the business and we sort of built back up. But I think also just, also learning to look at things as a like taking away the good out of it, you can. Like I do, like people still say, "Oh, are you in Woolworths?" Like because they remember that or they know of it. So like we have to look at it as like it was like marketing exposure. Like
brand awareness.
Brand awareness. Yeah, I wouldn't say it definitely didn't make us money, but it people still know our brand from that. So it did a lot for the brand. So yeah, just looking at things from different perspective. Like I've made so many mistakes, but like I guess just taking what you can learn from these mistakes that you've made.
Yeah, you win some and you definitely learn. There's no losses.
Yeah.
A is for aspire. What advice would you give to those who might be aspiring to go down the dietitians or nutrition avenue?
Look, I would definitely say go for it. I would also say though, like make your own. You've got to be willing to make your own success. I think a lot of people. Becoming a dietitian or a nutritionist became very popular. Like I came out in 2013 and like after that, like it's really taken off. It's got so competitive. Everyone wanted to be so healthy and be this and be that. And like there's not that many dietitian jobs. Like, and if you think that you're going to go like a traditional work in a hospital job, like that's the reality is there's not that many of them. So you need to be looking outside of the box. Like I got lucky, I was offered one, but it was only because I made a good impression on my placement. I then went and tried to apply for one through like the traditional route. And there was just absolutely no hope. So I think, I've created my job. So, be willing to create and look outside the box. You can create an opportunity for yourself. Don't think that it's just going to be served to you on a silver platter. But, if you're willing to go get it, you can definitely do it.
That is awesome advice. B is for value. How do you communicate the importance of self-worth and taking care of oneself to your clients, particularly parents and children?
This is a really good one because I think, often parents will be like, especially like in those early days, they're so, they want to do everything perfectly right for their baby. But then it comes at the cost of themselves. They'll be like, I've got to feed my baby. I've got to do this. But then they'll be eating like the kids' food scraps, or like they'll be barely getting, like a breakfast in because they've just got to make sure they feed the baby. I think, you can really only pour from a full cup. So just, make sure that you take the time to look after yourself, and, prioritize yourself, because otherwise if you're not the best version of yourself, you can't give the best version to your baby. Like if you suddenly, you were just like not looking after yourself consistently, you'll end up being sick and then you really can't look after them. So, you've got to make sure that you're the best version of yourself and really invest in your health. I mean, I even said this to my husband, like, I'm like, your health is your greatest wealth. I remember my financial advisor once saying that to me, like, you're your biggest asset, because your ability to work is what, will keep you going, and like will keep your, make sure you have enough financially, etc. It's the same though in terms of what you can give your baby. So you need to really focus on yourself. And I think unfortunately mums often come last, but they need to really prioritize themselves.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And last one is achieve. As a business owner, what strategies have you found most successful or effective? Sorry.
Oh, this is the one that I did. I think maybe, look, and this definitely comes over time, and I'm still working on it, but just, I guess it sort of takes from, I guess, the previous one, also prioritizing a bit of time for myself and like my mental health and my, what I enjoy, like, making sure I get to the gym or have a walk, or like, I mean, I'm all about like, I'm the multitasker. So now I have to, I like to go for a walk so I can listen to a podcast so I can still be learning, learning something so it's not like wasted. Or could I have a call on a walk, or, trying to do things, I guess, smarter and more efficiently, but also, also making that time for yourself, because again, in the same way as you need to look after yourself as a parent, as a business owner, you do too. Otherwise, the amount of times you hear about burnout, and, I've had times where I've just like collapsed and cried, you know what I mean? It's hard. It really, it's such a roller coaster. It really takes its toll. And I think if you don't look after yourself, like, you won't be able to like stick in it for the long run. And so many businesses in my area have I've watched come and go. Like, I obviously track my competitors, and I've watched so many baby food businesses come and go. And I would say, yes, part of it will be financial, but part of it will just be like founder burnout, like, because it's hard, and it's, yeah, like the emotional toll it takes is really huge.
Sounds very stressful, but it's obviously very important to prioritize your needs as well as what you recommend to your clients, and having that resilience. But you're doing amazing things, and it's been such a pleasure having you here and learning all about. I've learned so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. It's been so fun.
That's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
And remember, you can always find more episodes and updates on our website and social media page. You can find us on Instagram at Nava.podcast. Until next time,
keep chasing your dreams and making your mark on the world.